hours. Is there any like video, or they're just let's rock and roll?
It's like a radio talk show.
Yeah. I like it.
Yes. Flip switched. Wait, so you, okay.
Now from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
What's up, guys? Emily Gagnon here with a special guest, a first-timer, never seen before on Sports Tonight, Mr. Patrick Quinn, who I call PQ. Patrick.
Emily, I'm so pumped for this. Let's just have fun the next 30 minutes, just talk through sports. I think the last time we were on air together talking sports, I think we were in Los Angeles. Georgia was playing for a national championship. Beautiful
you have
scenery
a good memory
out there, SoFi Stadium, unbelievable. Of course, we know the outcome of that game, so I expect these next 30 minutes to be,
We try to keep it fun on this show, Patrick. So you're just going to have to bring the party, because that's usually what Ellie or Lee do.
What are we talking? What are we talking?
All right, well, first off, Patrick, I think we've got to tell the people, because we like to do a little introductory every once in a while.
Okay.
And we just don't want them to think you're just like some dude who just walked in, off the street and who's a news guy and knows nothing about sports.
I mean, I am a dude.
No,
Okay.
Tell the people what you've done in your past life. Yes.
Okay, so before I was a news reporter, I was a sports anchor.
That's right.
And that's how I started my career. And I went to school for it, and I went to the University of Maryland, and I interned up there for the Washington Commanders at the time, and then I interned for the Comcast Sportsnet up there, and then my first TV job was in Wyoming, and I was a sports anchor out there, and we have talked. My first sport that I mainly covered was rodeo.
And that I don't like.
But they also had a football team, University of Wyoming, the Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
And then I went on to Eastern North Carolina. I still did sports there and covered East Carolina University mainly, and also Triangle School.
Wait,
so
what's
UNC,
their
Duke,
mascot? The
Pirates.
Chanticleers? Oh, no, who's the Chanticleers? Ellie, who are the Chanticleers again? Isn't it a
Coastal Carolina.
I was like, I know it's a Carolina team.
Yeah.
The nice little, they're like the peacocks.
I know sports a little bit. Yeah, we can
He
hang.
knows sports a lot. Don't let him fool you. He just right now doesn't want to, give himself that much credit. Just in case you mess up on the show,
just in
right?
case. Yeah. That's good.
So we got a man with sports cred on the show. I thought we should start it off with that. But the real topic we're going to get started with, Patrick, the Falcons. And it was funny because this morning Patrick texted me and he's like, I'm coming on the show with you. And I was like, let's do it. And I was like, what do you want to talk about? And he said, are the Falcons making it to the Super Bowl?
Wait, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
I was like, man, it's only week 2. They win Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden we're talking about the Super Bowl.
Well, if you've been in
Let's do
Atlanta
it.
since that win on Monday night, it feels like the Falcons may have just won the Super Bowl. There was so much energy. If you listen to Sports Talk Radio on Tuesday morning, it really was like the Falcons had just won the Super Bowl, lining up, where's the parade, where's the mayor going to be, how's this all going to work out. Everyone was so gung-ho about that win. It really did feel like, okay, maybe we're on to something. Obviously, it's one win. Kirk Cousins said just as much the same. I think they gained a lot of confidence in that last drive.
They did.
And so we'll see how they play this weekend, and it obviously doesn't get easier.
You kind of reminded me, Patrick, when you just said, like, hey, where's the mayor going to be? Let's talk about the parade. So this situation quite literally happened, and I'm not joking. I got to Atlanta in 2017, okay? And I got here a week before the Super Bowl, the one in which the Falcons lost to the Patriots. At halftime, in this very newsroom that we are standing in,
Oh, no. What happened?
they were planning, because the Falcons were
Shut
ahead
up.
at that point. They were all planning.
What?
No, listen, everybody in here is like, oh my gosh, where are we going to go? Like, where are we going to set up? You get what I'm saying? Because you have to plan for that stuff. You can't just not plan for
To
it.
an extent, but you cannot start planning.
But
at
this
halftime. That's
newsroom
unacceptable.
was insane. Like, where are we sending the reporters? People are going to be climbing poles all over the city. Like, it's going to be pandemonium from left to right. We don't have enough people to go send all the people out to see how the crowd's going to be everywhere in the Atlanta streets. I mean, it was wild in here.
Atlanta's thirsty for a Super Bowl win.
It went from this newsroom being insane. And again, I've only been here for a week, right? To quite literally
devastation.
Yes. Like I'm talking about, I've never seen planning like that to like, the air was sucked out of this room. It was silence everywhere. And then I had to go on TV and do highlights. Fred Khalil, our sports director at the time, was in Houston, and I just felt bad for him because that's awful, right? Like to have to go in a locker room and talk to those players after that loss.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you do? I
mean,
it's just defeat.
Yeah, but it was funny you just mentioned that because I had a flashback of quite literally that, Patrick. I mean, this place was planning the biggest thing you could imagine.
So I'm partially blaming our staff who was here at the time.
The jinx?
Yes, for playing into that. You gotta wait. You gotta wait to the very end, at least to the fourth quarter. I mean,
it's true. But the Falcons now, many years later, new coach, knew almost everybody. I think Grady Jarrett and Jake Matthews are the only two that are still on the team from that Super Bowl team.
And it may feel, I won't say like a Super Bowl atmosphere this weekend, but with the Chiefs in town, we know their Super Bowl recent record.
Yep.
Also, Taylor Swift potentially in town. I mean, there is certainly a lot of buzz that is coming this weekend.
No, and it's the first time since 2013, so 11 years, that the Falcons have back-to-back primetime games. And I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today with you, Patrick, because this is interesting. Last year, they went from having no primetime games, just 1 o'clock games, to having 2 in back-to-back weeks. So they lived up to the hype in their first one on Monday Night Football against the Eagles, and we will see what they do now from home against probably the best or one of the best teams in the
What's
world.
your expectation? Realistically.
I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to win. I thought they were going to start the season 0-3. So, joke's on me at this point. They went 1-1, which is good, right? I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, that's just what I expected to see. But if they can prove me and start proving fans wrong, that's part of it, right? That's part of being a winning team is you're proving that you can, break the mold. Because this Falcons team that I've, grown to know over the years of being here has always let me and fans down. And I'm not a Falcons fan. I'm just saying, you think they're going to do well, and then at the very end of the game, the fourth quarter, they just kind of lay down. They didn't do that in Philadelphia.
It's a culture change.
Correct.
I think they're trying to make a culture change, and I think we saw maybe shades of that even in the locker room after the win. I mean, how that team responded around Coach Morris, that was a different Falcons team. Obviously, that win was a different kind of Falcons win.
Yeah. And you got to, and it's all on Raheem to be able to do that, right? To be able to change everything. And that's what they expect him to do. Really quickly today, Raheem said that Patrick Mahomes, he called him an alien. And he said, all of the league's best are called aliens in the sense that they're out of this world. So I thought that was pretty cute. And he calls a lot of players that, but definitely Patrick Mahomes being an alien. Because I was like, where is he going with this? He's he's an alien because he's out of this world. So if that...
Emily, you're an alien.
That is very sweet, Patrick. But think about that, right? You have the head coach saying that about, the quarterback they're about to face. And, I mean, I guess he's just being realistic about the situation because it's not like he's lying, right? When you have those kind of stats and you've played that well and a certain period of time, I think he's earned that name, even though it is kind of bizarre.
I mean, he's given him his flowers, and you certainly don't want any bulletin board material. So, of course, the week of, you're going to applaud him, and you're going to plan to try and defend him as best you can. And, yeah, I think it's...
What kind of flowers would you give him?
To Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah. If you could, I mean, what would it be?
I don't know. What type of flowers do you think Brittany would pick out for him?
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, not roses. I don't know.
It's hard to hate Patrick Mahomes. I mean, his game is just electric, so fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's a likable guy, very charismatic. On the Netflix show, The Quarterback, I mean, you got to see a little bit of his personality as well, his work ethic. As much as you want to hate on the guy and for being such a winning force over the last few years, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart because you're not a Falcons fan.
I'm a Titans fan.
Yeah.
Go Titans.
So Patrick, are you from Nashville? Is it?
From Nashville, born and raised.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So that's why Patrick, he likes. Is it? What do we say that? Is that to the north or the east? Is Nashville from Atlanta as what?
Definitely north.
All right, so to the north,
Mm-hmm.
he likes the teams more to the north. However, what I do know he does like the Braves. Loves
love
the
the
Braves.
Braves,
Okay, the
yeah.
Braves are his team. There's no team in Tennessee anyways, so.
No, growing up, like half of Nashville went Cincinnati Reds, half of Nashville went Braves, maybe a little more to the Braves. So my family growing up, huge Braves fans. My dad would drive us down here for the games. I got Chipper Jones's autograph. It's on a baseball somewhere at home.
This is how you know he's a fan.
I
It's
got-
like you revert back to being a kid, like, I got Chipper
I
Jones.
did. I love the dude.
Yeah.
Brian Jordan, if you remember when he
Yes.
was with the team years
Yes.
ago, I got a foul ball that was hit by Brian Jordan, and I went home that night
And you,
I
like,
wrote
put it on
on
your
the
desk.
ball, this ball was hit by Brian Jordan. and
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that is okay. So now we know that he's legit, a legit Braves fan. Braves. Let's talk about them. Are they in trouble? I think there's 11 games left in the regular season. I know Ellie will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 11 games left. And they're on a 3-game losing streak. They're at the Reds. They lost last night, obviously. But now, this is the big part of it. They're a game and a half back from the Mets in the NL wildcard race.
Oh, they're in trouble. They're absolutely in trouble. And,
Oh, 2 games behind.
oh, gosh. I mean, luckily there is a Mets series coming up, but it's almost forcing the Braves for that series to sweep them. I mean, at this point. And it's been this period where if the Braves could have just hung on, if they could just scratch out a few wins in this like 2 or 3 week stretch, we're about to get some guys back. Ozzy Albies is about to come back from being injured. I think this weekend or in a matter of days.
He had a rehab assignment yesterday. So he's coming back.
So he's coming. Austin Riley, he's coming. Like, these guys are coming back. If we can just hold on until October, get to that wild card game.
Hey, that's a
and see
big
what
ask to
happens.
hold on with this team and what they've been through this year. It's a hard ask.
How would you assess the managing of the Braves this year?
See, I don't have a problem, and I'm not okay. So I'm not a Braves fan. I just cover the Braves, right? But I do
Right.
like when they win because you almost when you cover players and you get to know them as people, it's human nature for you. You want them to do well in life, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
when the Braves are winning, all that, it's all good. So I wish they were winning, but let me tell you this. I'm not mad if I'm a Braves fan. How can you even be mad this year at Snit or at anybody because of the injuries? It's like one of those years where you just got to say, okay, like we had no control over this. Jesus, take the wheel. Like, what do you do?
Here's the argument, and you know the argument, is
I'm not
in
listening
years
to it, no.
past when Snit has had that lineup that's just been set every night. He doesn't have to do anything. No one's injured. Acuna's in the lineup. Austin Riley's in the lineup.
They
time
take
and
care of
again.
them.
He doesn't have to do anything. He lets his players play. This is a year where arguably you really needed a strong manager who could assess people's health, best position, best matchups, make some changes potentially pitching-wise or just sorting out the lineup in a way that could be more advantageous and just to scratch out some wins. There have been so many games that you just feel like were winnable. And it's hard not to look back and just question some of the decision-making and wonder what would have happened if our bullpen looked a little different or we just changed up righty-lefty matchups just a little bit differently. Would we be in this position today where we're scratching and clawing to get in this final wild card spot? In the same token, maybe it is because of Snit that we're in this position and we're 2 games back and, there is a fighting chance that we'll make it to the playoffs. So there's something to be questioned about the managing of the Braves this year. Maybe it's good. Maybe there was room for improvement.
Also, Anthopoulos in years past, right? I mean, I've always thought that he was top notch, and a lot of people have not liked some of the decisions that he's made, but he's always backed up his decisions by bringing in star players. Like the Freddie Freeman thing was like an absolute disaster, okay? Let's call it what it is. Fans love Freddie Freeman. He wanted to stay in Atlanta. It didn't work out. It was a mess. But the guy he brought in, Matt Olson,
Love
came
Matt
in and filled the hole, okay?
Yep.
He banged out. So even though fans were not happy with AA for what he did, they still couldn't be mad for long because Matt Olson
Right.
came in and played the part, right?
And because he signed Ozzy for nothing, Acuna for nothing,
Nothing.
pretty much.
Austin
for nothing.
for
I
nothing.
mean,
All
just
these
locked
baby
up these
Braves,
guys.
and that's what we used to call them, were baby Braves. They all, it was the hometown discount
Yeah.
through and through.
I All right, they need to perform. Reds tonight. We just need some W's.
Look, see that's how you know that we have a fan over here. But what I was trying to say about it, though, in years past, especially the year where, of course, there were more injuries this year than there were the year that Acuna went out and they won the World Series.
Right.
But obviously, Acuna is a force of nature. I mean, he is like when you have
freak.
him, yeah. So he was able to bring in these guys who played so well when Acuna got injured, right? You had Jorge Soler, even though he is now back on the team. You had the Pearl guy, Jock Peterson. Who am I missing? There was another one. Oh, there was Eddie Rosario, right? He was able to bring in these guys who made big differences and like brought energy to the clubhouse. I don't think that was something they did this year when they had all these injuries.
There were just so many injuries.
Yeah.
I think it was just hard to. You can Band-Aid up to a point, and I think some of the latest injuries have just been a little debilitating. But we'll see. I'm not,
Let's praise him for Chris Sale, though.
Oh my gosh, what a pickup!
Yes.
Oh my, I mean,
Chris Sale
likely Cy Young.
Yeah, I mean, it's like redemption, right? He's been injured for so long. And he told us during spring training exactly that. He's like, I'm healthy for the first time in like 4 years. Just watch out. And he lived up to exactly what he said he would do, which is like go out there and make a huge difference. You feel for that guy, though, right? Because he's playing so well, and then the Braves really aren't as a whole playing well at all. But injuries are obviously a part of that. So you want them to sweep the Mets, and then you kind of like their chances. But 2 games back. I said a game and a half. I was wrong. 2 games back.
2 games is a lot. There's just not a lot of room for mistakes at this point.
Yeah.
Taking 2 out of 3 almost may not cut it anymore for these series. We need some sweeps. It's just kind of down and out time. But sometimes when your back's against the wall, that's when you perform best, and we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. Dream beat the Sky yesterday, okay? Patrick, I don't know if you know much about like what's going on with Atlanta.
Let's
Dream.
see. Maybe.
They have 1 game left in the regular season, and it literally their entire season is on the line in that 1 game. There are 3 teams right now fighting for the 8th and final spot in the WNBA playoffs. The Dream are one of them.
And they're playing the Liberty, who just
Are so
clinched
good.
the #1 seed. So potentially they're going to rest their starters. Potentially they have nothing to gain by a win against the Dream tomorrow night. So ideally, New York rests their starters. Atlanta gets this final win tomorrow night. They control their own destiny.
Yep.
They are the 8th seed heading into the playoffs. I mean,
You win, you're in.
you win, you're in. That's it. It's
So-
just a tough win.
But we'll talk there's a few different scenarios. So obviously, like Patrick just said, and he's absolutely correct. They're controlling. They're in the driver's seat. Okay, if you get into New York and you drive your way through and you win, good for you. You're in. If Atlanta, Washington, and Chicago all lose Thursday night, Atlanta's still in. If Washington wins, ATL and Chicago lose, Atlanta's still in. So I don't want to read all these to you guys, but there are 5 different possibilities, and in 3 of them, Atlanta wins and moves on.
You like your chances.
Yeah.
You like your chances. They're on the road. Let's see what happens.
You're into
right?
it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm into it too.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the big dog, okay? The big dog UGA. Woof, woof. The big dogs are injured right now, Patrick. I don't know if you saw, but it's a very early in the season, and they've had some significant injuries to their team. They have a bye week this week, a very unusual bye week so early in the season, but now that everything's changed with
Much
the scheduling,
needed.
it couldn't have come at a better time.
Right.
Because guess what? Next week they travel to Tuscaloosa. They're playing at Alabama in prime time. That Kentucky game was insane. Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it. Take me through it.
Well,
13-12, I know.
Yeah, they
Tough.
lost. Well, Kentucky lost by a point. I said it at halftime. I'm like, whoever scores a touchdown in this one is going to be the winner. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that because I'm like, oh, I was
Why'd
right.
you say that? What was so?
Because
Was it gritty? Was it slow? Was it
the
defensive?
line of scrimmage. I mean,
Yeah.
the offensive and defensive lines on both teams, big boys. They know how to eat, and no, they do. And so even Kirby at the beginning of the week was like, "This is not going to be an easy one." Every time we go to Kentucky, they give us fits. And the last time they were at Kentucky, they beat Kentucky 16-6. And so now they're going back to Kentucky, and Kentucky was coming off a really ugly loss against South Carolina. So they expected the Wildcats to come out and just kind of jump on the Dogs. Not to mention the Wildcats quarterback is a former Dog. He just left the program and transferred. And then one of their star defensive players the linebacker, JDJ, Jamon Dumas Johnson, also left Georgia and went to Kentucky. So you had two players who really wanted to beat their former team really, really badly. And they're like key players, right? So they know. I mean, I'm assuming that Brock Vandegrift could look at that defense and almost know what was happening.
Definitely.
Because he lined up against them so many times. And JDJ, the same thing. He could look at that offense and be like, I know exactly what's happening here. A hard-fought game, but I will say this. So Carson, in the final drive, I believe, took off for, like, he kept the ball, took off for a run. He got tackled. And when he came up, you could tell he was in obvious pain, shoulder pain. Of course, Kirby right now is saying he's fine. I don't know if I buy that, but you hope he is. And if he's just a little injured, Patrick, by next Saturday, you hope he's better.
Yeah, an extra week off, ice baths, all the thing,
Yes.
recovery, PT, everything. You know, he could be in a different place. But you're right, it is a tough team to go up against coming out of a bye week. A lot on the line, a lot of bright lights. The former president may be in the stands as well.
And he was there the last time Georgia played at Alabama, too.
How did that go?
Lots of chants, like lots of excitement when
Yeah.
he entered through the stadium.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's interesting. It's when you have like presidents or former presidents at a game, you know, the amount of security and all this
Yep.
stuff. And but with that said, you want Carson back, you want your quarterback, you want your best player on offense, quite literally, to be healthy for these games. And Patrick, it doesn't get easier after Alabama, right? Like, they have a heck of a schedule. They still have to travel to Texas. I think that's like 2 weeks later. They have Auburn at home. Let me pull up the schedule in that order.
The
so
SEC is a joke. I mean, you just should get extra points.
I would
The
love
conference
that.
realignment is unfair. You should get a game advantage, I think.
It's
going into it.
wild. One of their offensive linemen, though, like star offensive lineman Tate Ratlich, he had tightrope surgery after that game against Kentucky. He came out of the game, didn't play, and then he had surgery. It was either yesterday or the day before. So they'll be down one offensive lineman, even though the one thing about Kirby and the reason why I said whoever scored the first touchdown was going to win, Georgia, you can hold Georgia for 2 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters. You can hold them pretty well. And, like, you know, teams that aren't in the SEC have been able to do that throughout the years. They've been able to. But the thing about the Dogs and the thing that Kirby has done so well is he has so much depth at every position that he's rotating these players in and out constantly. So they're going to, when you're the opposing team at 2.5 quarters, you're spent because you've played every down of football on offense and defense as a player that's not being rotated in and out. But Georgia can just absolutely outlast you because these guys are coming in with fresh legs constantly, Patrick.
Would you say Alabama is that way as well, though, to an extent? Maybe not to the level that Georgia is with the level of depth, but close?
I think close, but I think Georgia does it the best. But I think Kirby probably learned that from Saban along the lines like, hey, if I can have my 1, 2, 3 guy,
Yep.
you know, just rotate him in and out, then that's great. And that's one of the knocks. You know, when kids are being recruited by other teams and coaches know that these kids want to go to Georgia, they'll be like, why do you want to go to Georgia? You won't play every snap. You won't, and that is one thing that is used against Georgia. Trayvon Walker, when he was drafted 1 overall, he played like no downs of football, and he was drafted 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he played, 50% of snaps? But he was just that good. So
It takes a certain type of player. Got to be unselfish. I think you have to see it the long game and just buy in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the culture that I think he's building at Georgia, and that you're right. I think he established it at Alabama.
Michael Williams, we've got to talk about him, probably their best player on the defensive line. He's been out since the Clemson game. He has like some kind of an ankle sprain. We haven't seen him, and I know they want him back for that game at Alabama too. They have a couple of other players injured on defense. So I know it's taking me forever to get through the injuries, but there are quite a few. Now, I haven't looked at Alabama's injury report. I've only looked at Georgia's, but I do know that they're not fully healthy. Nobody is. Once game one starts, Patrick, like, you know, towards the end of the season, like, everybody's hurt. But it starts then. It starts, like, right away. You're getting hit, you're tired, all the things right away. It's not, it doesn't help that, you know, you're playing against these great teams or whatever the case may be. All right, so Georgia, Alabama, then you've got Auburn, Georgia, Mississippi State, Georgia, and then I believe Texas and Georgia. And if it stays the way it is now, Patrick, let's just say they escape Alabama, they're able to beat Auburn and Mississippi State. It's going to be and Texas wins out. It's going to be the number 1 and 2 team in the country facing off in Texas. How about that? I mean, that is what I want to see. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, if the stars align, let's go.
Let's go. What's the concern? Are you doubting Georgia right now because of how they played against Kentucky?
I mean, I would in a
They're going to
college
lose one this
football
season, I
fan
think.
way.
Yeah.
I would like to see some parity.
Okay.
So I would like to see a little bit of a shakeup. Living in Atlanta, being in Georgia, I would like to see Georgia continue to win. It just seems to put everyone in a better mood. Texas has certainly become that high-profile
Oh my
team.
gosh,
The
yes.
Manning success, like, I feel like ESPN is just salivating right now, hoping, or ABC, wherever that game is going to be played
It's going to be on
inevitably.
ABC, yeah.
Hoping that game gets to it. The scenario that you talked about, 1-2.
That's a Super Bowl.
It's just impossible to predict at this point. I
Yeah.
mean, the SEC is unreal. We'll see what happens with Alabama. I think Georgia, if they can weather this storm of injuries right here, see where they're at in 2 weeks and see what happens.
I want to look at Texas's football schedule over the
Mm-hmm.
next few weeks. Okay, so they have Louisiana Monroe on Saturday while Georgia's
know.
playing
It's what are we doing here?
Alabama. Then they've got Mississippi State. Okay, Patrick. I'm glad that I'm looking at this. Texas, Oklahoma before they face Georgia.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a Georgia Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? The Red River Rivalry? We still call it that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so
we'll see what effect that has on the game. Are
Yeah.
they going to be spent after that, emotionally, physically, everything? Could that play in Georgia's advantage, or will they be coming off some electric win in which they're coming in with all this momentum?
Yep.
And, yeah, things are lining up.
This is nice. I love it. I love college football. I think there's nothing better. That's just my opinion. That's what I enjoy to do. I enjoy to watch. But
Where did that come from? Was it from covering it?
no, so my very first college football game I ever went to was at Auburn, and it was Auburn, Georgia, because I had girlfriends from high school who went to Auburn, and they invited me, and I went, and I didn't want to go, but they're like, Emily, you have to go, and it was the end of the season because that's when that game usually was played. And oh my gosh, I had so much fun. And I was like, all right, when's my next game? What are we doing? Like, come on. So then I started going to all the games. My sister went to Florida, and the year that they won their first national championship with Urban Meyer, with Tim Tebow and Chris Leak, and that defense was unreal. Amy's my sister. She was at UF at the time. That was 2007. Like, I went to all the games with her. And I had so much fun when Jarvis Moss blocked that kick against South Carolina. I mean, there were so many things I could tell you about that season that I remember. But yeah, I just was
What is it? The energy in the building? Is it are you a stat hound? Is it the culture of it?
I just don't think, especially in the SEC, you just never know. You could say that about any game, right? It doesn't have to be football. You never know who's going to win.
Yeah,
but I think in the
true.
SEC, it's even harder when two SEC teams face each other, just like the Kentucky-Georgia game. That was insane. And I told somebody after that game, obviously, I covered Georgia. Like I mentioned earlier, you eventually want these coaches and these players to do well, right? Because you get to know them as players. I mean, as people. But Kentucky, in my mind, deserved to win that game. And that would have been a game. That game would have changed the program. That win would have changed so much for them because they played so well against Georgia. But that's not what happened, right? Georgia still got 1 point more, and they went on to win. But that's how the margin of error in college football is so little, especially in the SEC, and I just love it. I love that you just can't guess. Because in that one, I don't know how many points Georgia was favored in that one, but nobody went in saying Kentucky's going to win this game. Nobody. They had just been blown out by South Carolina the week before, badly.
But Kirby talked about that. Coming off of a tight game in the years past, it's tough to face that Kentucky team.
1,000%. Not to mention, I'll say the same thing about earlier in the day, South Carolina LSU. Did you see that game?
Yeah.
Now, I was like, South Carolina, for me, I was like, South Carolina should have won that game, just like I'm talking about Kentucky.
Agreed.
I was so sad for those fans. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
You get too emotional.
Well, it's just you.
You're like a caring mom over there.
I did.
Which is great.
Whatever, Patrick.
Yeah, no,
do you have anything on your
we
mind
love our
before we
moms.
go? You see how fast 30 minutes goes by? We're already
my
done.
gosh.
Yeah, if you have anything on your mind, I wanted to give you some time to talk about it.
I've just really enjoyed this experience.
Yes, I was. You know,
Talking
that's what's on
sports.
my mind too. See, now you should come on more often. You should
Okay.
come now. You see that it's not as bad as
I mean, I
one
was
might say.
intimidated. Some of y'all sports people y'all are nuts.
Well, when you start talking about SEC football.
I know, right?
So thank you for joining us.
What's on your mind?
Pete,
Or are we out of time?
no, yeah, we're out of time. I
Oh,
mean, this
okay.
is what
I'll
happens.
ask you later.
This happens a lot. Oh, and really quickly, though, Messi is in town tonight. Atlanta United's
That's
taking
right.
on Inter Miami
Yeah.
very, very
Arguably
soon.
the best soccer player in the world if you're in Atlanta.
It's here in Atlanta, but we'd
Goodbye.
rather talk about the dogs. Have a good night, guys. PQ, Emily Gagnon.